Hey guys, it's Young Acty the Political Kid here, back again with another video. And I know I've been really slow, and that's on me. But as you guys know, there's this whole thing with the coronavirus going on, and quarantining, and just a lot of stuff going on with that, and also personal stuff that I've been going through. So yeah, it's been kind of tough, but I'm getting back into it for you guys. A lot of stuff's been happening, like with the primaries, which is basically over. I mean, I don't really know what's going on with that now. A lot of states have uh, postponed voting, but the delegate count is it's a pretty big difference, and I don't know if Bernie will be able to overcome that. And I know I haven't really been clear, but yeah, I was going for Bernie. I really thought that I still think that he has the best chance to beat Trump if that's really your goal. And he is Hillary Clinton 2.0. If I haven't said it before, I'll say it right now. He is Hillary Clinton 2.0, except this version is worse. There's more to his record with him voting against or voting for the Iraq War, um, his record on trade with NAFTA and the TPP, and him helping push that through, which is basically what led Trump to the presidency. That was one of the main things that he hit Hillary with, her support of NAFTA. And on top of that, I'm sorry to say it, but I think he has cognitive decline. When you see him talking, sometimes he just loses his thoughts, doesn't really know what to say next, even with a teleprompter. And those are things that Trump is going to hit him on. It might sound mean coming from me, but if you think that Trump is not going to hit him on it, then you are living in a completely different world and must not have been alive during 2016. Because that is exactly what Trump is going to do. He is going to go dirty. He's going to attack him personally. He's going to attack his record. And even the things that he supports now, um, he doesn't support legalizing marijuana. He doesn't support Medicare for all, even though he talks about this public option thing. There's just a lot of things that could bar him from getting to the presidency, especially with going against Donald Trump. It's it's not looking good, honestly, and the moderates are so excited, so excited. The boomers are like, I'm trying to save you from Bernie, and I'm sitting here like, oh my God, please don't, please don't, please stop, don't, just stay home, don't vote, please. But it is what it is. So there's been that stuff going on. Mainly what I want to talk about today is the coronavirus stimulus bill. So first we're gonna go over exactly what's in the bill, all the major points that I don't think people have really completely talked about or looked over or seen. Just been hearing like little bits and pieces of information. So I want to give the whole complete picture of everything in the bill. So this is according to CNBC. So basically, it gives a one-time direct payment of up to $1,200 for individuals and $2,400 for couples filing joint, with $500 added for every child, based on 2019 tax returns for those who filed them and 2018 information if they have not. The benefit would start to phase out above $75,000 in income for individuals and $150,000 for couples, going away completely at $99,000 and $198,000 thresholds respectively. It also boosts unemployment insurance, adding $600 per week for up to 4 months, which is it's usually 3 months when you're on unemployment, so that was boosted up an extra month. On top of what beneficiaries normally receive from states, it expands eligibility to self-employed people and independent contractors, which was not part of getting unemployment benefits before, so that's actually good. Here's the thing: creates a $500 billion pool of taxpayer money to make loans, loan guarantees, or investments to or in businesses, states, and municipalities damaged by the crisis. We're going to talk more about the grants and bailouts given out to huge industries and companies, but yeah, that's what it's put as. So continuing, it gives $25 billion in grants to airlines and $4 billion to cargo carriers to be used exclusively to pay employee wages, salaries, and benefits, and set aside another $25 billion and $4 billion respectively for loans and loan guarantees. Provides 17 billion in loans and loan guarantees for unspecified businesses critical to maintaining national security. So that's just unclear there. Just just blanket money basically. Put 117 billion into hospitals and veterans healthcare. Provides 16 billion for the strategic national stockpile of pharmaceutical and medical supplies. This is the good stuff right here. Give 350 billion in loans for small businesses to cover salary, wages, and benefits worth 250% of an employer's monthly payroll with a maximum loan of 10 million. Includes a tax credit for retaining employees worth up to 50% of wages paid during the crisis for businesses forced to suspend operations or that have seen gross receipts fall by 50% from the previous year, giving some relief to businesses there. Requires group healthcare plans and insurance providers to cover preventative services related to coronavirus without cost sharing. Delay payroll tax for employers, requiring half of the deferred tax to be paid by the end of 2021 and the other half by the end of 2022. Ban companies that take government loans from buying back stock until a year after the loan is paid back. That's something we're going to be talking about as well. Bars employees or executives who made at least $425,000 last year from getting a raise. That's something we're going to talk about as well. It also stops Donald Trump, and his family members' businesses from receiving emergency taxpayer relief. Okay, that's good. The provision also applies to Vice President Mike Pence, heads of executive departments, members of Congress, and their family members. Okay. And it also suspends federal student loan payments through September 30th with no accrual of interest on those loans. So that's really good too. And I love that they put in the student loan stuff. But there is so much wrong with this bill. So let's go over the good things about the bill first, and then we'll go over the bad things because I think the good things will take a lot less time. So let's go over that. Good things. The benefits to the hospitals, the funding to the hospitals, much needed. Should have come earlier, but definitely we needed a lot more money into the hospitals. And I would argue that we should perhaps even give them more, as Governor Andrew Cuomo has been saying that the funding for New York specifically isn't enough. They're only getting $3 billion out of this bill, where in previous bills and House bills, they've gotten $16 billion. So yeah, there's arguments that they could use more, but I like that they put a large sum of the money back into the hospitals. Another thing, unemployment insurance, adding $600 per week for up to 4 months, expanding how long you get those benefits, and putting them on top of what you normally receive was awesome. That was also something that Bernie Sanders fought for. Let's not forget that. That was something that Bernie Sanders put in. Excellent. Saved hundreds, thousands of people's lives through that, because as we know, unemployment is going to skyrocket. I'm telling you guys. Someone from the Federal Reserve in Missouri, I think it was Missouri, one of those states, said that unemployment was expected to rise to 30%. That was greater than in the Great Depression. The Great Depression unemployment was at 24.9%. And that's officially, right? When you actually look at like U6 unemployment, and people that have not given up trying and not even applied for unemployment, you might as well just double that. So we're looking at 50%, 60% true unemployment. So this is a huge benefit that was necessary upcoming. And Bernie Sanders did that. And there's been so many people that have been saying, oh, Bernie Sanders doesn't do anything in Congress, even though he helped expand veterans' health care rights, tried to limit the president's powers on war, and was a crucial vote for Obamacare, even though he didn't agree with it completely and didn't think it went far enough. So this is just another thing that, on top of Bernie's record, that shows that he is really for the people, and really invested in the people. So yeah, I think that was really good. Basically, honestly, that's it. That is really it, guys. Like, I hate. All right, let's go to the bad parts. Okay, so let's start small. Oversight, right? Oversight for the Steve Mnuchin, who is the Secretary of the Treasury, has complete oversight of who can be waived from stock buyback provisions and executive compensation, only needing to report to Senate and House, right? So basically, the Senate bill, David Ciorda writes, the Senate bill includes a special section allowing Mnuchin to waive the limits on stock buybacks and executive compensation. The only deterrent to him using the blanket waiver authority is that he would have to tell House and Senate lawmakers. LOL. And that is really hilarious because if you've seen any of these reports where people are going in front of Congress and they're getting questioned by them and things like that, it is a bunch of hocus pocus. It's nothing more than a slap on the wrist. They just get dressed up to go get roasted for like an hour or so, and then they leave. And there's no actual change to the system, much like what happened with Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg when he came up in front of Congress, and that's how Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez really became mainstream and really popular as a politician. But there was no real change to the system. Yeah, we exposed what happened, but if there's no real authority to fix it, then what is the point? So I hate that he has so much power over the benefits that companies will be receiving and the huge amount of bailouts. And with this whole oversight issue, Steve Mnuchin is probably the worst person to be at the head of this. He used to work for Goldman and Sachs, which is a huge banking company, which arguably could have played a huge part in the recession with their malpractices during that time, which they were not held accountable for. He worked there for 17 years. Then he founded a bank called One West, which was reviewed. Although he was like, top CEO type of executive. So they don't get blamed for the lower end crimes and the things that happen there. But the Office of Thrift Supervision said that they did a review of One West, and the review uncovered unsafe and unsound practices, violations of law, and foreclosure processes geared towards speed and quantity instead of quality and accuracy. Also, One West, two California housing watchdogs filed a federal complaint against One West, accusing it of violating the Fair Housing Act by discriminating against blacks, Hispanics, and Asians. Since at least 2011, respondents made few loans to Asian American, African American, and Latino borrowers and communities in absolute terms in relation to the demographics of the counties in respondents to CRA assessment area or in relation to the industry as a whole. So Steve Mnuchin in himself is a corporate hack. So giving him this huge oversight and the power to waive the stock buybacks and executive compensations, that is a power he most definitely is going to use to help out all his buddies in CEO positions and all the executives of huge industries. Don't even That's not even going to be something that he's going to hesitate on. So that is another problem with just the oversight of the bill, and just even if there was someone who we could rely on for oversight, there are holes that should not be in place. You should not be waiving stock buybacks at all. You should not be even have the option to waive executive compensation because it is 110% unnecessary. There is no real reason in the world that you can come up with to say that we should be bailing out these companies and allowing them to spend that money on executive compensation and buying back stock instead of the workers that are actually the ones that built up the company, make it what it is today, and are getting laid off and not paid enough. So it's just a huge issue. Also, when we're talking about the amount of bailout money, it is disgusting. So let's look at this was a something done by the Huffington Post. The final text of the bill has not been released, but according to a legislative draft, the new law would establish a 4.5 trillion corporate bailout fund overseen by Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, with few substantive constraints. Some outlets are reporting this as a $500 billion fund, but $425 billion of that can be leveraged 10 times over by the Federal Reserve, resulting in a multi-trillion-dollar program. The bill permits bailed out companies to lay off 10% of their workforce over the next 6 months with no restrictions thereafter. Mnuchin would also have the authority to waive any upside for the public in its new investments, and the bill's restrictions on stock buybacks at bailed out firms are too temporary to be significant. Bailed out companies could even pay dividends to their shareholders, so there's no limit on the money that they're getting from the government to go and just be like, you know what, we're going to pay off the shareholders who are mostly rich. Like, keep in mind, only half of this country is invested in the stock market. Only half. So paying back the dividends and shareholders isn't going to be beneficial to the people that actually need it. And there's just no restrictions on that. The oversight terms that Democrats secured are purely cosmetic, replicating the toothless provisions of the 2008 bank bailout that enabled watchdogs to report abuse but not actually prevent or rectify it. That is my main problem with this whole oversight thing, is that basically, yeah, you can call it out, but there's nothing you can do to change it. And that is a huge, huge problem with this bill. So, yeah, and along with that, the budget is really 4.5 trillion, not 500 billion. When they say that, that is a cover up, because the Federal Reserve can leverage that 10 times over, which you know that they will. And this is basically a bigger bailout than in 2008 and with that recession, because that bailout was $4 trillion. This is $4.5 trillion, which is basically limited oversight over. So that's a huge problem with the bill. Also, the money allocated, guys, means testing. I've been talking about universal basic income forever, since the beginning of this presidential primary. Since the beginning of the primary, not just in a crisis situation, but overall. And in a crisis situation, it's even more necessary, right? So people are still paying, yes, they froze student loan payments, but people are still paying monthly bills like rent, mortgage payments, electricity, groceries, things like that, while only getting a one-time payment of $1,200. Who knows how long this thing could last? Because it's looking like it's only getting worse from here, right? There are 100,000 cases plus in the U.S. alone, over 2,000 deaths. And a few days ago, that number was reported at 1,000. So this is growing exponentially, and there's no real end in sight. I know the president is saying Easter, but that is so unrealistic. And that's another huge problem with the bill. Also, even getting the measly little $1,200 they're proposing is extremely difficult, because basically, if you don't have a direct deposit information already on file with the IRS from previous tax returns, you won't get the emergency funds for up to 4 months. And people need that relief today. That's why universal basic income works so well. You can send out prepaid cash debit cards straight to people, to every single household, every single person, easily, way easier than it would take to have this means tested system in place. Also, so people who it's based on the people that filed in their 2018 or 2019 tax return, right? There's a few problems with that on its own. So first, for the people that don't make enough money to file taxes, they're not getting any relief. So they don't get access to any of the $1,200. That is a huge issue on its own. On top of that, let's say you filed in 2018 and you're in a good middle class job that's paying you pretty well, $100,000, right? You lose your job, and you don't file for a 2019 tax return. because you're still looking for work, whatever, you don't make enough money to even file for the tax return that year, whatever the situation is. Basically, you wouldn't get any payment because if it's based off your 2018 tax return, you're making over 99,000, then to the government, you're straight. You're straight right now. And you could be with no job or with a lower paying job than before. Even if you filed in 2019, you got fired and you went to a lower paying job and you couldn't file for unemployment because you still have a job, it's just lower paying, but you won't get the benefits that you should have gotten. And that's just a huge problem with this whole system, and with basing it on tax returns and having it means tested. And this isn't just a Republican issue. Like, I'm not just railing on the Republicans. Yeah, the Republicans definitely had played a huge part in the bailouts and making sure that industries were paid off instead of people. But at the same time, in the beginning of this whole affair, the White House was actually proposing universal basic income, and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer shut that down fast. The Washington Post reports that Nancy Pelosi's proposal at the beginning of this affair was much more targeted towards mean testing than the White House. Also, her chief of staff, Drew Hamill, tweeted that any aid must be targeted in order for the speaker to approve. And they're supposed to be the Democrats. This is why we're gonna lose the election. You cannot let Republicans be to the left of us. We will lose. That is what happened. That is what happened in 2016 with Donald Trump. He took to the left on some issues like anti-war. That is not a Republican standpoint. Republicans are not for getting out of the endless wars. That is a left standpoint. And Hillary Clinton was talking about establishing a no-fly zone in Syria, which really hurt her campaign. And Trump took to that. If you let Republicans go to the left of you, you are going to lose every single time. So, yeah, basically, with the oversight problems, the money allocated, people are not getting paid enough, and they're not getting paid often enough. A lot of people are going to be hurt from this bill, even though the Republicans are touting it as a huge win. And even the Democrats are also touting it as a huge win. People in Congress are touting it as a win. And it is not a win for the American people. And we should have done better. And basically that's all I have to say on this issue. I'm going to be coming back with more videos under this whole quarantine time because we're not ending in Easter. That is not going to happen. So I'll have some more time for more videos. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and leave a comment on your thoughts on the bill and some issues that you found or things that you liked that I didn't mention. And basically that's it. Thank you guys.